too.
Yeah.
They are also volunteers of Desert Bus.
Exactly. So if you want a chance to win that, and maybe some magic cards as well, we have a $7.25 donation drive going on right now. Full set of Masters 25, full set of Guilds of Ravnica, and one of these doubloons could be yours for as little as $7.25. Just donated that in there. Kathleen, even just while that introduction happened, you got carried up over 40K shift total and $390 lifetime total. And we just hit hour 151.
Yay!
We're trapped here even longer.
I said I wanted to get to hour 152, but that's $27,000, so that might not be feasible, but I think we can get close. I just
you got 5 hours.
I'm just so happy we're going to get to $42,000 because I do love that number.
Yep. So,
I love these stats, these graphs. We had nothing like this in the early days. You remember? It was like, how much do you think?
In the early days, it was all duct tape and prayers.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was like a spreadsheet or something.
Oh.
Year one, Kathleen. You remember year one.
Yeah.
Woof. Woof.
Yeah.
Well, I remember because I was like, I came in for the weekend just to visit my boyfriend
Nobody
at the time.
expected it to go longer than the weekend.
No, I had to call because I really wanted to see the end of it. So I called my boss in Vancouver, and I was like, "Hey, I'm doing like this thing," and she was just like,
Actually,
but like I got poo-pooed at work for staying for an internet fundraiser because what on earth was that? Ha ha! Showed you the former boss who was actually perfectly nice, but just was not up on internet stuff.
yes, Megavision.
Oh yeah.
Right now, I'm noticing in the chat here, there's people are trying to get that shift total up to $42,069.
Nice.
While they're working on that, and there are a couple of milestones already that we can celebrate, I'm going to let them work on that for a second. Steve, a lot of our longtime viewers are big fans of yours, but if somebody has just tuned in, would you be so kind as to tell us who you are, what you like to do, and how you're connected to Desert Bus?
How did you get to be king?
Another 100 and just kidding.
Yeah, another 100.
So it is known to a select few that I'm Ash's brother.
Yeah.
So, which is actually was my original connection to Desert Bus, because she infected me with the Desert Bus bug, the Desert Bug.
The Desert Bug.
And
no, that's different.
Not what we caught last year and the year before and the year before that.
Who needs a hit?
Speaking of hit me.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Could you give a hit to our driver there as well?
Oh, absolutely.
42K. Oh, we already blew through 42
Oh, wow.
2016.
Great
look at
pass.
that picture made at the IWTV Awards. That was
Oh,
a
wow.
while ago. Yeah.
Thank you
So
much.
I've done various things throughout my life. I co-founded a company back in 1993 with a friend that grew to be the world's favorite foreign exchange website and app, which did really well. And then, oh, geez, everyone's pulling out. Oh, there's the gravity gun from one of the auctions. So I had the privilege of knowing a fair number of people relatively early on in their career and being able to support some of the cool things that they did, some of the cool indie projects and things like that. I used to be able to go to the auctions at the Child's Play auctions in Seattle. It used to be like a staple there. I just don't have the time to do that anymore, unfortunately. And that's actually where, through that auction, I met Harrison Cricks, the maker of, he's been on the bus a number of times.
Noted prop
So he and I
maker,
go
Vulcan
way
props,
back.
Harrison Cricks, yeah.
I might have the largest collection of Vulcan props because I sort of got in early and started getting a bunch.
Yeah.
But no, I've got. But no, you know what? I've just been really fortunate, and I've been a huge fan of Desert Bus for a very long time, and just like enjoyed giving back to the community and helping out and chipping in where I could. And some people have been pulling up pictures of me in the Star Trek uniform. I'm just going to take a quick moment to plug that. So,
please.
I was part of a group. I was the executive producer of a project called Star Trek Continues, which was a fan production that recreated the original Star Trek sets and finished the original 60s Star Trek series. So those of you might know that there were 3 seasons and they'd always intended to do 5. And we got a bunch of very talented people together, spearheaded by a really interesting guy named Vic Mignogna, who you guys might recognize from doing a million anime voices, right?
Yep.
And we got a lot of other really cool people involved, and we finished the original 60s Star Trek series. And a number of people, including Rod Roddenberry, the son of Gene Roddenberry, have said, this is canon. This is the completion of Star Trek. We really nailed it. Like, it was really well done. So that is Star Trek Continues. If you are interested in that, StarTrekContinues.com. It is so good.
And you were an executive producer on that, but you also had an on-screen role on that, I believe, were you not? You were
what we did in Star Trek Continues is we took some of the original concepts of Star Trek that appeared in later seasons and productions that weren't in the original one. For example, Ship's Counselor was in later productions, but it didn't exist. So we introduced a Ship's Counselor on the Enterprise, played by Michelle Speck, who was amazing.
Okay.
There was no security chief. If you watch the original Star Trek, there were a couple of times where they sort of hinted that rando guy in the uniform might be the security chief, but you know what I mean? Like, it was not a named character. He wasn't persistent. So we introduced the security chief, and that was my character, Security Chief Drake. And it was a really neat character. Like, when you actually get in there and you start playing around with the characters, and you realize, yes, this is a natural, like, the Enterprise was out there exploring the galaxy, but also exploring how to explore the galaxy. They didn't have it right yet. They were still exploring the whole way. Like, yeah, Ship's Counselor, here's how that can come in handy. Oh, a security chief, that makes sense. And you know what I mean? Introducing some of those cool characters. But we had some great cameos in that. Grant Imahara was, he wasn't a cameo. He was our Sulu, but we had some really neat. We have some really neat people involved in that. So listen, I mean, nobody makes any money off that, and quite frankly, you couldn't anyway. Paramount would come down and like a ton of bricks. So, but it's honestly, it's a fan-made production with true heart, and people regularly say that when they watch that, it is indistinguishable from the original in terms of the way it looks. But yeah, people are pulling out pictures of me in various. Yeah. There's the N7 jacket, and then one year we remember we had. I got the N7 jacket that Jen Hale is wearing there, who did the voice of Shepard, and Mark Meir, who's done the male Shepard, who I think's been on Desert Bus a couple of times, hasn't he?
I think they both called
like a phone in.
I know we've definitely had Jennifer Hale call in. I feel like we've had Mark Meir, but I can't remember 100%.
Yep. And we gave away jackets, those N7 jackets signed by Mark Meir and Jen Hale. Like, there's just been a million little things we've done over the years. Like, I can't believe I'm this old, but you know what I mean? Like,
we can't believe we're this old.
I know, right? Like, it doesn't seem that long ago we were just starting out. We just had a lot of fun. We're still having a lot of fun. It's just like a million little things, you know. But probably we did Fallout Nuka Break. We did some tie-ins with that. That was really neat. If any of you are Fallout fans, we did a web series with
I'm a fan of the Mass Effect and Fallout.
Okay,
Star Trek, so you're talking about everything I like.
When Vince Talenti directed basically a fan series in the Fallout New Vegas universe, and there were 2 seasons of that. And it had some really neat people. I had Doug Jones, who went on to play Silver Surfer and Abe Sapien, and
he was just in the Shape of Water.
Yeah, he's Academy Award winner now. He's in the Shape of Water. Yeah, so really neat people, like just people you bump into, like doing these little fan productions. You show up and it's like, oh, because people in Hollywood, I shouldn't say that. There are lots of people in Hollywood, certainly not everyone in Hollywood,
for sure,
who really are interested in. They remember struggling and starting out, and they want to get involved with the little projects. Yeah. First of all, because it's just good to give back. Yeah. Second of all, it's fun. And third of all, you don't know. These people could end up directing a movie someday. You don't know. You get out, you meet people. It's just been a lot of fun. Yeah, there's some great, like, Star Trek Continues had some great guest stars in it. We had Cass Avanar from the Expanse, and we had like some really, really great people. If you watch Star Trek Continues, it's like a non-stop, like, who's the cameo in this scene? Who's the cameo in that scene? And it's mainly because the people in that, like Todd Havercorn plays Spock, and he's also a million jillion anime voices, right? It's funny, I was watching Godzilla Shin, which is a relatively recent remake.
Hideaki Anno directed one,
And it's sort of like, okay, what if we were as true as possible to the original Godzilla movie?
Right.
Only we did it today, right? And it's a great movie, but Todd's like 4 people in that. And when you know somebody, right, and they're, oh, it's Todd, right? Oh, and he's playing the old guy. Oh, and he's playing that guy. He's doing that voice.
Like, I can recognize Jennifer Hale's voice from like a single line now.
Oh, and she has,
I love it. And I'm just like, Jennifer.
But she's done so many things. Yeah. Like, if you look at what she's done, like, just, you know, and it's funny because some of the stuff was like stuff that I was involved with. Like, I did a bunch of stuff, like I was doing some financing for a bunch of games with Tim Schaefer at Double Fine.
Yep.
And we're sitting there one day, and it's so funny because I was, whatever the opposite of fanboying is, I was talking to Jen Hale, and she's like, well, and I said, like, well, you know, what have you done, right?
Yeah.
She says, well, I guess I did Commander Shepard in Mass Effect. I went, oh, okay. And then she named a bunch of stuff from Double Fine, like Ophelia in Brutal Legend and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like I know, like that's where your voice is from, right?
Yeah, that moment where you realize that, like, oh, I've actually been a fan of this person for years, but I never connected all the dots till this moment.
It is. Well, the other thing is too, when you're laying down a voice, and it doesn't always sound the same in real life as it does processed through whatever they're processing, like little bass shifts and things like that. So sometimes you can meet someone and you won't click until they tell you what it is. Although other times you totally know what it is. Oh, there's Ken Stacy.
Yeah.
He was here last night.
He was here last night. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Costume Quest?
Costume Quest, yeah.
That game was really fun.
I helped.
Mine had a bug.
I helped. I financed the PC and Mac versions of Costume Quest, stacking, and I did the Mac version of Psychonauts. So if you play those games, the little Dracogen logo comes up in the front. I'm like, you know what I mean? 'Cause
Actually,
it's really neat. And I don't have any stake in it. I was just like helping the, you know what I mean? I financed it, and it was just a straight sort of I'm not a shareholder or anything, just helping little things out. It's really cool. Actually.
Yeah. Just a quick side note for you there. Costume Quest is being turned into an animated series for Amazon next year. Yeah, so there's going to be more of that.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So when you back a project like that, is it sort of similar to Indie Fund in the sense of like you provide them with that capital to help get them off the ground to produce their thing, and then a percentage of their profits goes to pay back essentially that original loan rather than like a share?
Yeah, it depends how you structure it.
Okay.
So nowadays
I'm
there's
just
things like
100-foot view. I don't know.
No, but you're pretty much bang on. So,
Okay.
but these days, what's neat is there's things like Fig. So that's kind of
Fig's
like, so
great.
it actually lets you buy into a share.
Yep.
But and that's really a great way to do it because you can sort of crowdfund, but then also the people that get in kind of get a share of the profits if there's profits.
Yep.
But prior to that, like back in 2010 and 2011, before those things were around, you just sort of say, hey, you know, what have you got going, and do you need any help? And they'd say, oh yeah. And typically what I would do is I would get my loan repaid back relatively quickly, and then like a little bit of a tail end that lasted for a while. But we did that with, it's funny because if you play video games, you'll often see Dengler, Dracogen in some of these things.
Yeah,
like
I see the logo show
Pillars
up
of
when I'm playing
Eternity,
stuff.
I have an in that, and in not Planescape Torment, which is my favorite game, but Torment Tides of Numenera, I'm a pretty badass villain in that game. I'm not someone you dink around with in that game. It's cool, right? You get things like that, and to be honest, that's kind of the point of it, right? Like,
for sure.
To be one day, back in your youth playing Planescape Torment and having your mind blown, and then years later go, hey, wait, I can help with that. Oh, wait, they're going to give me, I'm going to help. They're going to put me in the game as a character, right?
Yeah.
It's just so cool. I've done a bunch of stuff with Brian Fargo. Wait, I'm sure you may have killed me in Witchland.
I might have. It's not nearly on the same scale, but like I'm familiar with it. There's at least 2 Kickstarter projects that I backed at like much smaller indie games, but at a high enough level that I could get to be a character.
I disagree that it's
really
different.
fun.
I disagree. I think that is a much more sustainable model.
Yeah.
So probably the highest profile sort of Kickstarter thing I did was the Veronica Mars thing. I took the top,
that was a big one.
I took the top spot on that, and so they gave me a part in the movie, which there's an interesting story on that, which I'll tell you in a second. But I did like so many interviews that, well, I guess what I do isn't really the same as what you do, but I've contributed. And I'm like, that's baloney. Those people contributing at the $10 and $100 levels carry 85% of the fundraise for that.
Yeah.
So some schmo that comes in and has the privilege and luck to be able to do a higher level, that's like this much versus all the fundraising that's occurring downstream. That's way more important. So when anyone downplays their involvement in those Kickstarters, I'm like, no, dude, you're carrying the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
I'm the schmo that puts the flag on the top and goes, woo, look at me.
I didn't mean to downplay it. It just meant that it was a sort of a different financial scale, because that's something that applies a little bit here as well. People who've been watching for years.
Yeah,
ooh, hey, black and white. People who've been watching for years may have noticed that there are more giveaways in increasing years. Mm-hmm. It's that same principle.
Yes.
It's all of those donations of maybe perhaps $7.25
$7.25
for a full set of Masters 25 and Guilds of Ravnica. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
good at this, Andrew.
Everybody who donates those, like that is gonna. You saw how fast that total shifted up. Like, Kathleen's at 43K just since, like, it's gone up so quick. I can't wait to see what the amount is at the end of this. But you're 100% right there,
It's
Steve.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, when you guys, I guess I could say we.
Yeah.
Can I say we?
You can say we.
We.
We,
Yes,
we, desert,
We're-
we,
we're
the desert
we.
bussers.
We
the
are
bussers.
Desert Bus.
Yep.
We are good one.
We
I need
are
a t-shirt
Desert
with that. When we shifted from, I didn't do the shifting, but when Desert Bus shifted from sort of auctions to the raffle model,
Yeah.
like first of all, it's way more accessible. Everyone's got a shot.
Yep.
Everybody has a shot. Whereas
Yep.
the auction is kind of like, well, you get bid out almost immediately. And do you remember that time? What was it? Mikey Newman had a sword that was used in Serenity.
Serenity.
Right.
Which I own now. And right. So he said, okay, I'd let it go for a large amount of money.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'm in. And yeah, okay, I was on the couch like this, and I went. And then they ran like another raffle, but because I put in like $10,000 or something like that, they said, okay, let's take let's take the winner of the raffle, Steve, because it had basically counted that as like a million jillion entries
Which
in
is
the raffle.
part of the reason we changed.
Right.
You couldn't do that
Well,
anymore.
that's
We
what
had
I'm
to figure
saying.
that
And
out.
then it's like, okay, one person comes in and has the ability to do a big lot like
Yeah.
that. Okay, let them have their lots if they want to do, but the bread and butter should be absolutely accessible to the people that want to do it. Somebody has $7 or $10 and can contribute.
Yeah.
When you get a whole bunch of people doing that, that's way more significant than one schmo coming in and dropping down a large amount. Oh, the Veronica Mars thing. So
Please.
they even did a College Humor skit on the Kickstarter line. So my line was I was supposed to be a waiter. Kristen Bell and Jason Doring were supposed to be in a restaurant. I was supposed to come up.
Okay.
So as it turns out, I'm not an American. I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm a Canadian citizen, dual Italian-Canadian citizen. So I can't work on a SAG project I can't work on a unionized project in the U.S. unless it's a new media. There's a new media exemption where if you're like, okay, you like Fallout Nuclear Break or something, it's like, look, the budget is whatever it is.
Do you know a little bit about this, Kathleen?
I
So-
got an exemption to work on a union project because I'm a new media personality
There you
a
go.
long time ago for Magic the Gathering.
And,
okay.
and so there are tricks and traps, but they were worried because this was such a high-profile thing. One of the first times that there was yes, that's the College Humor Kickstarter, and they had that was supposed to be my role, and I didn't get it. I couldn't get that role. So what they did is they said, all right, you can't come down and work in the U.S. I went down, and you know who I took down as a guest because they let me take a guest? I ran a raffle, and it was Pika. I came
no
up and I
way.
took
Right, I
Pika
remember
down,
you
and
taking
they
Pika.
gave her a role because she's a citizen and as a waiter or something like
that's
that.
right, I remember
But we
that.
had a blast down there. We met everybody and hung out with them. They're such a nice crew. And Rico Colantoni, he's Canadian. He lives like 5 kilometers from my house. It turns out, I live in north of Toronto. It's hilarious. But what they did is they said, all right, we figure if you shoot it in Canada using like a Canadian crew or yourself or something, if you self-shoot it in Canada, then we'll treat it as a video asset as opposed to like for a fee versus, or donated or something, versus like a screen credit, and there was a way they could do it. They would have let me do it, but it was going to be under such scrutiny because it was a high-profile project, and they didn't want to run into any trouble, and I understand that.
Yeah, valid.
So they gave me, there's a scene where James Franco is trying to get on these crazy skinny jeans on a bed,
Yeah.
and they gave me the YouTube host intro guy, the Gene Genie. There it is. There it is.
Ah, the
And I go, something, let's get weird, or something like that. And that's my line.
I
in
was
the
watching it
movie.
on TV, like honestly, 2 weeks before Desert
Right.
Bus, and I was like, I totally forgot Dengler was in
So-
this thing.
It's like Desert Bus infected
Yeah, like-
reality.
So
As I'm prize
I-
descriptions.
I've only watched the movie like a couple of times, maybe 7, but I always forget where I am in the movie because it comes fast. They're in the middle of a conversation. I think it's a 2-shot with Doring and Bell, and then it goes to this, and it's really fast. So you're watching the conversation, and there you are on the screen, and saying something wacky. It's like, whoa! Oh, it was so much fun. They're amazing, amazing people, and of course now there's more Veronica Mars on its way. So
Coming to Hulu next
for
year.
fans
true.
of Veronica Mars,
Are you a fan?
I'm really excited.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a marshmallow.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the term for fans?
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
That's so good.
right? That's, yep.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
That's what it is. That's totally
Okay,
what
I
it
love
is.
that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
marshmallows.
I'm one that
But-
didn't know it. Yeah.
Most recently, and the reason I'm wearing this spiffy suit is because last year,
Yeah.
my father and I did the first Canadian circumnavigation of the globe by helicopter.
Yep.
And we believe, although it has yet to be certified, but it's in the process, the first ever father-son aerial circumnavigation of the world.
Oh, wow.
By anything, helicopter,
Wow,
plane,
like
anything.
any medium.
Yep.
Wow.
Sweet.
Not circumnavigation, because lots of people done it
Yeah,
on
but
boats.
aerial.
But aerial, yeah.
Yeah.
So we did it. We were an official Canada 150.
Yeah.
So last year, for those of you who aren't Canadian,
Yeah.
Canada turned. There it is. There's a picture on the
Yeah.
screen. That's my father and myself.
Yeah.
So we had a third guy who couldn't make that photo shoot, named, and I'm not joking, Dougal McDuff was the guy's name. He sounds like a radio play
Yeah.
hero from the 30s.
Yeah.
Right?
Like Scrooge McDuck's cousin.
So, and he speaking of McDuck, he reminds me of like Launchpad. Like he's a totally Launchpad guy. That's in
Sky
Launchpad in real
Captain
life.
of the
He's so
yeah.
awesome. Okay, so this guy he's one of the most experienced helicopter pilots in the world. He's flown for the UN. He's flown into war zones and gotten his helicopter shot up. People get it. So that's Dougal on the far right of that photo.
Okay.
He was, no lie. Does anyone remember Jacques Cousteau and the
Sure.
Calypso?
Yeah.
He was the pilot of the helicopter on the Calypso. He was Jacques Cousteau's
Wow.
pilot. This guy has done everything. He's one of the most interesting people I've ever met
That's
in my entire
unreal.
life. And
Wow.
he's just this rough and tumble bush pilot-y guy, but he can pull out stories of the time he flew the president or just what you name it, he's done it, right, in a helicopter. So mapped glaciers, been like flown in the Sudan, and rescued downed pilots from another helicopter and stuff. Like just crazy stories. So
so
the three of
good.
us set out on Canada Day last year. By the way, if you want to go onto c150go.ca, you can
Yep.
see a lot of the photos.
By the way, the photographer that you had for that, really great.
So, we had the photographer we had for about half the trip was Peter Bragg.
Yes.
And he's an Order of Canada winning
Yep.
photographer. And he couldn't come with us the whole way, though, because going over the Arctic, we had to go down to as few pounds, like we were counting every ounce.
Yeah.
Because some of the legs over there, over the North Atlantic, were long and like right at the range of the helicopter. So we were traveling light. So, and when we went through Russia, we replaced Peter with a Russian navigator and who was also our radio man who spoke Russian on the radio. So he was with us for about half, and he shot amazing photos, but I actually shot the remaining photos in the book. He gave me a crash course as we were going, and I'm really
That's so
proud of some
good.
of the work that I did. So here's a book. It has many of the best photos from the c150go.ca. Yes, we were on Global, and we were on the Discovery Channel. We had all kinds of great press.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give one of these to Desert Buzz, but I'm going to make the mystery box a little less mysterious by donating a signed version of this book. I'll sign it, and we'll put it in the mystery box.
Amazing.
So it's going to be a little less mysterious. But we left July 1st of last year. We flew east along the St. Lawrence to the Atlantic. We flew up the coast of Newfoundland and Labrador to Baffin Island.
Yep.
Then we went around Greenland. Then we went Faroe Islands, UK, down through the UK, in through Europe. It was the 150th anniversary of Canadian Confederation, but it was the 100th anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge. So we stopped at Vimy Ridge and laid a wreath there that we were given by the Legion.
Yep.
We also delivered another wreath to Beaumont Hamel, which is the Vimy of Newfoundland, shortly before they joined Canada. And we were trying to highlight Canadian cultural and scientific and engineering achievements as we went. So we visited the Pont de Quebec. We overflew Confederation Bridge.
I was about to mention
Bridge, by the way,
Bridge.
the longest bridge in the world over icy covered waters.
Yep.
And 12.9 kilometers. And I have a presentation, but we won't necessarily get into it now. But if you Google satellite photos of that, when the ice comes down the channel, the pylons are acting as cheese graters, breaking the ice, which is why it's hard to build a bridge over icy covered waters, because there's ice half the year. That thing is a miracle. That thing is a marvel of engineering.
I lived in Prince Edward Island for 3.5 years, so I've driven
beautiful.
across that bridge several times. The most memorable of which was like middle of the winter, very dense fog. So imagine driving on a bridge where you can see neither end of land for like 10 minutes because you're driving slow because the weather's so bad, and it's just like, how long have I been doing this? Is the rest of the world still there?
Like
Yeah, there's the picture of us.
Desert Buzz.
Like Desert
Exactly.
Bus.
Exactly. So we also visited Signal Hill at Newfoundland, which was the site of the reception of the first transatlantic radio communication ever, right? Marconi, 1902, December, I want to say. It was 01 or 02. Yep. And we also visited the other end of that transmission in Poldhu, Cornwall, where they sent it. And we carried a brick from the original building. There's people are picking, that's a picture I think that we had on the web, from our website. Yep. Probably some of the things I'm talking about you'll be able to find on the gallery. We have a Google gallery on the website. We took a brick from the original building where Marconi received the signal and delivered it to the historical site at Poldhu, which was super cool. That's neat. We flew, let me see, from into the continent. We stopped at Rocklincourt, Arras, which is like a kilometer from Vimy. We went Prague, Warsaw, Riga, St. Petersburg, then through Russia. A third of the trip was through Russia. 11,000 kilometers in 11 days. 10 time zones too, which is almost every day you get up. You're going through a time zone, right? Yeah. That's the other thing. We flew west to east, so every time we took off, so there were 48 days, 30 of which were flying, and of course there are 24 time zones, so almost every time you took off to fly, you'd lose an hour. And we're losing an hour. I know you're going to ask that question. That's the right question to ask. Go ahead. That's a smart question.
Well, I don't know if I'm asking the right question now. I mean, if you're changing time zones that quickly, do you just start ignoring time zones and start going on your own
100%.
clock?
100%. I'm sorry, I meant to mute that.
That's okay.
So, yes, it starts to become super surreal, and you just sort of start living in the moment. And wherever you are and whatever you're doing is what you're doing. You try to catch some sleep. So there's a picture of us getting the brick in on the chat in Newfoundland, which we delivered to Poldhu, Cornwall. So the reason we went west to east is because, so I'm a fixed wing pilot too. In fact, I've flown planes a lot longer than helicopters. Even small planes, like little putt-putts that you see, flying your airport, have a significantly longer range than helicopters.
Oh,
so
yeah, like
the helicopter's doing a lot of work just to keep it up, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they're super flexible and amazing machines, right? But, depending on the model, what your comparison, you could be burning anywhere from 3 to 10 times the fuel of a small plane. And so we had a twin-engine helicopter. It's the same model used by the Canadian Coast Guard. Super reliable, which is why we had no worries flying over the North Atlantic. Well, no worries might be an exaggeration. Which is why we weren't really...
Minimal worries.
When I first saw you post about that, my initial thought was just like, wait, helicopters can do that?
So the longest leg was from, so we flew around the bottom of Greenland. The longest single leg was from Kulusuk, Greenland to Reykjavik, Iceland, which was 738 kilometers. Cool. And the rated range of the helicopter is 740 kilometers.
Whoa!
Now, before you say, but Steve, it's not legal to do that, we had an auxiliary fuel tank, and we had basically, in the cartoons where you see them throwing seats and luggage on the aircraft. So before we left, we stripped the helicopter down, and that's why we couldn't take
flight.
Literally to the spec minimum of what you're allowed to carry on that leg.
Wow.
And then also we waited till the winds were with us as opposed to against us, because the wind is, if you have a tailwind, you're going to make it easy. If you have a headwind, you're not. So we waited till all the factors are right, and we got it. Actually, it was one of the least eventful legs of the trip, to be honest.
I'm going to get you to pause the story there for a quick second here. I want to hear the other half of it, but I do have to do a little bit of housekeeping here before 6 p.m.